when the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality. Open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends, so join the book club by DLC.
Good morning there, book clubbers. Hope you're dancing in your seat. Gotta get a little boogie in before the day begins, at least for us. I'm Jeff Kanata. I'm here with Lana Bachynski. Hi, Lana.
Hello, good morning. Happy for the boogie and happy to be here.
Me too. We got some fun chapters to talk about this week, chapters 9 and 10 of Toll the Hounds. And man, I'm so in love with this book. I'm having such a blast with this one. It just feels like such a treat every time I sit down to read.
It does. Even like the sad parts of it right now all are like sort of laced. There's like that sort of broader narrator that makes everything. It makes me feel sort of distant from it in a way that it's a delight. It's a delight.
Indeed. This feels like the full flowering of the Malazan series. I don't know. I mean, all the books have been excellent, but I don't know. I just feel like I'm so in it. Anyway, we'll get to all that. We'd like to start each episode with a non-spoiler topic. So even if you're not caught up with where we are reading, there's something to talk about, something to get you thinking about books and fun things. We love hearing from you for those topics at dlcfeedback@gmail.com or on our Discord, which is 5x5DLC on Discord. This one was sent in by Matt F. To dlcfeedback@gmail.com. Matt writes a lovely little note to us. Says, hey, Jeff and Lana, greetings from near Liverpool in England. I've been working my way through the back catalog of the DLC Book Club over the past months and have just caught up. Well, it now sucks not having an episode on top whenever I have the time, or on tap, whenever I have the time. Waiting for each new episode really perks up the end of my week. I read the Malazan Book of the Fallen a few years ago, largely during the COVID times, and it just blew my mind. It is beyond a blast to rediscover the joy of these books and the humor with which you treat them, as well as the obligatory tear fests each book produces without fail. Thank you both so much for this wonderful experience. You have shown such genuine humanity in how you absorb and share these books. And to say you have added to my, and I'm sure many other people's, enjoyment of these books is no easy feat, and certainly no small compliment indeed. In a nutshell, thanks so bloody much. Keep being yourselves. The world certainly wants for more Eriksons, Kanadas, and Bachynskis at the moment. Well, that's pretty great company to be in, I got to say.
Heartwarming. Goodness gracious.
Thank you, Matt. Matt goes on to say, I had an idea for a non-spoiler topic. The first fantasy series I read as a kid were the Redwall books by Brian Jaquez. One thing I always remember from this series is how amazing all of the food sounded. The descriptions and inclusions of platters and plates and feasts sounded so delicious. And I always remember wanting to jump into the story just to stuff my face, which brings me to a couple of questions. Are there any fantasy or other books you have read where you would love to dine out if you could? And also, like the aforementioned amazing food inclusions, are there any other I'm sold elements that immediately make a book better for you? For example, animal companions, cool gadgetry, awesome battle prep scenes, etc. Hope this provides some food for thought at least. Thanks, Matt. I just looked up real quick I hadn't read any of the Redwall series. I don't know if you have, Lana. Do you know of them?
Oh, like very, very, very long ago, such that I might as well not have. But I think they had a Redwall TV series that I also watched a bunch of as a kid.
I read one of just somebody posted a quick example of one of the food feast descriptions in a Redwall book, and here is one: turnip, potato, beetroot pie, cold fizzy strawberry cordial, damson short crust and cream, cowslip and parsley liqueur, brown ale, cheese and mushroom pasties, and nut bread cake iced with clover honey. That's some good description.
That's good description. That is quite a feast. I'll say this. I feel like it's hard for me to identify like a specific book that has food in it. because I love food so much that even books where they're like, I ate my bread with like wedge of hard cheese on the road as rations. I'm like, ooh, this sounds so good. Like that's sort of
Yeah.
my mentality when I think of like places I'd want to dine out at. Like the
They
things
have cheese there?
Wait, is that dry bread? I love dry bread.
Sopping up gravy with hard black bread? Delicious.
That is actually you hit it. You hit it. I feel like most of the books I read, people are frequently destitute, and so there's not a lot of spaces I'd want to dine out at. Like
I think George R. R. Martin's always describing bread as being black. Like that's not. Why how does that sound good right now? I don't know. Black bread,
like a very old pumpernickel loaf.
Yeah.
When I think of franchises, though, I know we asked about books, and I'm very bad, but I've got it on the mind because Monster Hunter Wilds just came out. But Monster Hunter, video game eating almost always looks really, really bad, and yet Monster Hunter somehow, maybe it's the charm of being prepared a meal by a cat, a muscular cat, or whatever it is. But that's like the only thing that comes to mind where I'm like, I want to eat a Monster Hunter. Wherever they are in the wilderness, being attacked by monsters, I don't care. Get me that Meowscular chef, and I'd like a meal, please.
Yeah, they do make it look succulent and delicious, even though you know exactly where it came from, and it's not pretty.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't think anything can beat Traveler, sucking the still beating heart of a bear that he just ripped out.
Oh yeah, that got me. That got me good.
Talk about salivating.
The sponginess of the organ, it just hits.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing I would think of is lembas bread from Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, lembas bread always sounds so good. Although in the movies, it was like a cracker, which is never how I imagined it. In the movies, he like snaps it in half, and I guess it would have to be dry to be, travel friendly.
Yeah.
But I remember
just get drier and drier, and it's part of the delicacy.
Like, I don't want to crack. It looked like shortbread. I'm like, when I was imagining lembas bread, reading it as a child, it was succulent and moist and like I don't know, like a butter cake. It's like, oh, it's lembas bread. The one that comes to mind for me, and I'm like you, it feels like most of the stuff I read, the goal of describing the food is to express how terrible it is what they have to eat. Like you just like how they're roughing it. But the thing that the place certainly that I'd like to dine out most of anything I've ever read is the restaurant at the end of the universe from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which if folks haven't read, is literally they use time travel for you to be able to sit and watch the universe collapse on itself every night at 5 p.m. And I think that's also isn't that also the restaurant where you can meet the cow before you eat it? Like it wants to assure you that it is fine with you eating it. Very funny stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about the other part of the question? What is something in a book that immediately makes you go, yes?
I think something, and I think I've talked about it before, but generally sort of thieving, scheming, mischievousness, plotting to get something, pull something over on somebody. Like
a good heist is always
good
great.
Heist. So, we're gonna do. I can't even think of it. We gotta do a job, and we got a job to do, and sort of the preparation that goes into that, and then the execution when it goes. Even though it's like the dramas and the tension, like when it goes right, you're like, oh, they did it. There's just like a satisfying thing there. And also, and I feel very hesitant to say this because I feel like you really got to thread the needle. Can't be too many, can't be too obnoxious, but like one sassy, obnoxious character. I do love one person who cuts it and is like, I'm that guy who's going to be the guy. If it's really well done. Sometimes it's like so on the nose and you're like, there's the guy, he's going to be the guy. But, something that comes to mind is the character Mogget from Sabriel, who's this little sassy cat guy who's sort of always around, who's like kind of a demon or whatever he is. It's so well done. I think obviously in the Malazan books, in each little pocket, there seems to be one person that sort of brings that energy. Yeah. And I really do love that. I
Calor
love
for us right now is feeling a lot
yeah.
of that.
And there's different flavors. Like Krupp
Yeah.
is that very frequently,
Yeah.
where it's just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what are you talking about? We're being normal over here, and you're being verbose and disgusting. Like, what
Yeah.
the hell? Like, I
Totally.
love a comedy break.
Oh, that's great. Those are great. I also love comedic, well done comedic stuff in the written form is so great. The one that came to mind, I guess, is kind of tangential to what you said. I love competent people being hyper competent.
Yeah.
You know, I get jazzed. You know, even something like a Carsa Orlong, who's just so good at what he do. You know, and just knows it. And it's like, I'm gonna kill you once, you know, that kind of thing. That I'm the best there is at what I do, and I'm gonna show you. I love that hyper competence in novels. It's so fun. So that gets me jazzed. Yeah.
Is there
Great
like
questions,
a line
Matt?
is there like a line that goes past it into like, okay, well now they're Mary Sue territory, or is it like even that you're like, whatever, love them?
You know, obviously execution is everything. I've never thought, oh, it's a Mary Sue or whatever.
Yeah.
But but I guess it could get into that if it's, I mean, there's a novel I think I've criticized on this show. I don't know if by name, I don't like to be mean. Writing a novel at all is a Herculean task, and I'm, you know, respect anybody that is published one. But, you know, I definitely read a novel recently where it's like, oh, it's the orphan who's secretly good at everything. And, you know, oh, you just misunderstood. And, oh, that was really the real parents were, you know, it's that Harry Potter syndrome where it's like, that is a little great. I don't put that in the same category of like hyper competent people being hyper competent. I think I like you know, I am excellent at this thing, and the author has sort of earned it, you know? So I guess I do agree with what you're saying.
I guess like the caveat being, oh, it's got to be in a book that's good. It probably doesn't need to be said.
Yeah. And it does turn me off. Even a book that's otherwise good, it can turn me off where it's just like, oh, that person has no flaws and is, you know, is just good at everything. Yeah. All right. We got a lot to get into. So let's get into it right now. Spoilers for chapters 9 and 10. We start chapter 9 with a couple of scenes with Gaz and Thordy and their interesting home dynamic. Where Thordy is placing flat stones in her garden. Gaz not in love with that for some reason.
It's breaking the rules, whatever those rules are. It also like a little bit more insight where it seemed like fairly romantic and tragic, where it's like, oh, he still loves her even though he's a murderer. But then now his inner dialogue is like, well, it's breaking the rules. I'm gonna go beat some other people to death, so I don't have to beat her yet. And it's like, oh, you bad.
Yeah, not a nice man.
You nasty.
And then she thinks, oh, you know, his little fingerless hands can do so much harm even to me. Not great. Not a great situation. This Gaz fella is percolating. I don't know what this is all about exactly. I'm interested to see where this is going.
But I know he's definitively a bad guy, and there's nothing
there is nothing that will make me sympathize with him later. I've learned my lesson in Malazan. All right, so then we check in with Barathal, who is, I guess, at the DMV. He's literally like having the worst nightmare of government bureaucracy. Where this scene is just so great. Where it's like, well, you can't do that because you're overqualified, sir. You're too good. You can't be an apprentice, but you can't get the job unless you've been an apprentice. So you're kind of screwed there, pal.
Bummer, dude. Yeah. And he leaves and resolves just being like, I don't know if it's right then. He's like, well, I'm just going to do it anyway. Yeah. Obviously.
Screw you.
Yeah.
But just the catch-22 of it all, the logic, the illogic of, I know he can do the job, but can he get the job? To quote Joe versus the volcano.
It's like game dev jobs that are like,
Yeah.
entry level job requires 5 years experience, and you're
Yeah,
like,
you must have
what
shipped at
in
least 2
the
AAA games. What?
yes. Oh, okay.
How do
Interesting.
I what? Yeah. But so great. And then he does go to Mallet, who's having a shave ice.
Yeah.
I love that. I was like speaking of what a perfect week to talk about food in a book, because I have never seen a fantasy novel where somebody's having a shave ice. And I was like, yeah, yes, I love this.
And even just plugging in and being like, oh, when I was a kid, we had like mages who would have to like make the ice to do this. But then it's like, oh, something about the chemical reactions happening with the fire. It's like leaving a vacuum for like cold so that they can just have it.
It's just amazing.
But
he
is still in sort of like I picture Darujhistan as like a hot place, so it's like melting super quickly, and he's just getting covered in it in this world. It's just like what a cute little thing.
What a great detail. I mean, Erikson's so good at these little details that, like, how did he even think of that? The purple ice in a leaf cone. So great.
And even the description like of Barathal being like, I can see a glimpse of what this guy was like as a kid, watching him try and eat this little treat. Yeah. So sweet, so nostalgic.
Chewing on his little otter pop. You know, it's like, oh, I know what you were like, sitting on the curb. It's delightful. Yeah. But basically, Mallet's like, hey man, you can't join the Blacksmiths Guild. Why don't you just strike out on your own, buddy? I'll help you. We can work it out. Your target demo is the Malazans, the displaced Malazans. I got a whole bar that's perfect for those. We can just help each other, funnel people through,
and then eventually get mobbed and probably beat up and our stuff burned down. But otherwise, it's going to be great.
Until
then, great venture.
Yeah, it works great. Anyway, so he's like, okay, let's find a suitable location. And his idea makes Mallet laugh, which I love the foreshadowing of that. Then we head over to Scorch and Lef, who are also trying to get jobs. Everybody's just, trying to.
Everyone's going legit.
Down. Yeah, just settling down in Darujhistan, Scorch and Lef are trying to get jobs as gate guards at this new estate of this new noblewoman who might end up being a council member. We don't know who this is yet. I don't think, unless you correct me. I don't think we know who this is yet.
I don't know who it is yet. The only things that sort of come to mind are later when we have the person that they're sort of the liaison is like wrapped in bandages or whatever. Is it this scene or the next scene?
It's this scene, but I don't think that's her. That's like this.
That's not her, but like
Studlock, right?
Yeah. But then if this person's working for her and she's also very sort of like hidden away, the only thing I'm going to knock in, the Sheikh is the only thing that comes to mind.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Where they had sort of.
Well, it does say inhuman eyes, or at least for this guy.
Inhuman eyes and like wrapped in bandages. And I don't know if they were actually like, is it a tail? No, there's no tail. Or like there's something weird about it where they're trying to like cover themselves up that I'm like, you like a lizard. Or.
Yeah, it's got like praying mantis hands and feet like hooves. So there's definitely something going on.
Or
maybe he's a demon.
Feet that were so small that could be hooves.
Yeah.
And so who knows? Who knows? But
I love how the foreman is like, hey, here's the Castellan, it's Studlock, and they're like, Studlock, really? Studlock? That's his real name. And then Studlock is hilarious because Studlock is like, oh no, you've got tongue worms. Did you eat those conch things down by the pier that everyone eats? Yes. Oh no,
you in trouble.
You get tongue worms.
And it's like, oh, it's fine. I will heal you.
Yeah.
Send your friends to go get more guards. We need more guards. When I trust you implicitly.
So good. I love the ridiculousness of this, but also the manipulation is very fun.
I can't tell if it is manipulation or silliness.
I think it's both. Yeah. I really do think it's both. I think Studlock is like having a goof, because in the next scene, we find out that Studlock is like, oh yeah, I guess I was wrong. And laughing about it. But I also think it is kind of establishing this power dynamic very intentionally as well.
And just the continued gullibility of Scorch and Left.
Yeah.
The continued like
lunkheads.
Just take them for a ride. Whatever you're doing, you can get them.
Total lunkheads.
Yeah.
Then we have a quick scene with the noms. I like this little domesticated noms. The Tessera and Torvald and their little their unconventional marriage. She's like, hey, here's the thing, buddy. I need you to not be around all the time.
She's like, something I really got used to was you like not being here.
Yeah.
So please go. Just
find anything to do. I love how modern, this is very, this is why some guys take up golf, other guys woodworking or go out with their buddies, watch the game. Or some people, delve into a life in the underworld crime organizations,
who can say really, like a hobby's a hobby.
Yeah.
Get out there, make a buddy.
As long as you're doing something for you, and you're not here with me.
Yeah.
But I just thought this was great. She's like, it's so great you're back. Can you leave though? Cause too much.
Yeah. Honestly, I get it though.
Dude, we were at a party last weekend and with our friends, and my wife is like, before COVID, I would travel like every other week. And I really think that's why our marriage was working so great. And I was like, what? It's because we didn't see each other as much. She's like, it's hard to see each other all the time during COVID. And I was like, I thought it was delightful. Anyway, my wife was like, I need to see you less. And
Absence
so I was like, this
makes the heart grow fonder, baby.
It really landed. This scene really landed on me. It's like, oh, okay.
Malazans, they're just like us.
Anyway, but she pushed him. She pushed him into this life of crime. He was trying to go straight. He didn't want to associate with Scorch and Left anymore. And she's like, you got to go do something. He's like, this is the only thing I can do.
They're all trying to go straight. He's associating with Scorch and Left on the up and up. It's above board, baby.
Get a real jarb. Nice jarb. Okay. So we go back to Studlock and Left, and he finds this tincture to squirt into his eye. He's like, put it in your eye and on your tongue 3 times a day, and that'll get the worms out. And he's like, you may have other worms. You may have guilt worms. Which was hilarious.
Put it. You have these worms, and then Torvald's like, what are you talking about? Those worms?
That's right.
When fish get those worms,
Torvald shows up and just debunks the whole thing
immediately.
So great.
And the guy's like, "Oh, that's okay." And his eyes are like orange and like slightly bulging now. And there's like something going on. And he's like, well, this will all go away in a couple weeks." And he's like, "A couple weeks?" He's like, "It's better than having worms." And it's like, well, I never had worms. It's like such a funny.
Oh, it's
I loved
so delightful. It's just wonderful, wonderful comedic structuring. But the bulging eyes thing, I don't know. Have you ever seen, the end of the original Total Recall when Arnold Schwarzenegger gets thrown out the airlock and is on Mars and he's about to die? Have you ever seen that?
I'm sure that I have, but I don't remember why.
Well, the effects team, this is pre-digital effects, and so everything's physical. The effects team built a replica Arnold head that the eyes bulge out, and so it was going and the eyes are bulging out. It's so disgusting. And as a little kid watching that, I will never forget it. It's one of those things like like the horse in Neverending Story dying. It's like it stays with you forever. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm imagining with his eyes.
Yeah,
that's what I'm imagining.
Just for a few weeks, though.
Yeah. Anyway, so Torvald hired on as the new captain of the guards, and he's like, "Hey, your house nom there's like a lot of noms all around. Is this going to be a conflict of interest?" He's like, "I don't even associate with any of those people."
I like that he's specifically like, "Yo, you got a brother who's like an assassin/thief, and that's like you're a guard now. Isn't that a conflict of interest?" And he's like, "Nah, it's fine." I also like that he's immediately like, "Wow, I just started. I'm already promoted to captain, huh?" And they're like, "Yeah, we trust you. We trust you."
Yeah.
Suspicious little guys.
Yeah. But then he's like, so how much are we getting paid? And he says like an exorbitant amount.
Yeah.
And it's getting way overpaid. So there's something suspicious about all this.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know.
Something suspicious. I don't know.
Because they're getting crazily overpaid. And this dude's a wackadoo. And
there's no like real vetting.
Yes.
They're just like, you're hired. You're here.
Yeah, perfect.
Guard the door.
Warm bodies. That's what we need. Yeah. But it is funny when he was just like, you don't get those worms. He's like, oh, not those worms, the other kind of worms. He's like, yeah, you can't get those either. It's like, no. The best line where he's like, the best line, the specter of misdiagnosis haunts us all. That's such a great line. I don't know. Specter of misdiagnosis haunts us all. No, just you, man. Just you.
I haven't misdiagnosed anything.
Yeah.
All I did was eat lunch.
So great. All right. Murillo has now head over. Speaking of getting jobs, this is just like everybody's getting jobs. Just like let's all enter the workforce.
Yeah, there's work. There's work to do in Darujhistan.
In this economy?
Yeah.
So Murillo is heading over to the dueling school that Stani is running to get himself a job. Stop his womanizing ways and go straight as well. Stani, not exactly invested in this school. She's just cashing the checks, letting the little idiot kids,
letting the lordlings hit each other with sticks and
do it wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Murillo walks up and she's like, hey man, we don't have any more room in the school. He's like, no, I want to teach. I want to teach here. And she's like, oh, really? Yeah. Okay. Well, who did you learn? And he drops a name. And I love how, we as the readers have no idea, but we totally get that he's dropping a name.
Yeah.
He's like, I was taught by Karpala. And she's like, Karpala only takes 3 people a year or whatever it is. He's like, yeah. He's like, there's only 7 that are still alive. He's like, nope. 2 of them have died.
2 of them are dead. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, she's like, oh, dude, you really did get taught by Karpala.
The real deal, baby.
You got the goods.
I also just, isn't it the same scene that he walks up and he's immediately like, still just like, even though we know it from his inner monologue later that he's feeling a little weird and out of sorts.
Yeah.
I forget if it was right before this or during this scene that he's like, I used to be womanizing, but it was so embarrassing. Like, what a horrible way to get stabbed and almost dead, blah, blah, blah. But then he like talks to Stani for like 1 second. She's like, you're not womanizing anybody here. And he's like, I'm here for a teaching job. Like, it's so natural that he like looks up and he's like, oh, yeah, I'd like the teaching. Hey.
Hi. Yeah. Hi. Yeah.
I can work on I can work on their footwork. It's just he's in it. He can't stop himself. Even Stani, who's like, been through it, is like, stop it.
Hey, wait a second, charm pants.
Watch it, bucko.
Yeah. And then Mirla shows up and is like, oh no, have you seen Harlo? Stani, have you seen Harlo? He's missing. She's like, how long has he been missing? She goes, 2 days. 2 days? 2 days? She freaks out. Murillo's like, hey, I can help. I know people. I can get the word out, see if he's been down at the docks. Stormy just jets, and Murillo's like, don't mind her. That's her son.
Mm-hmm. And she also, Stani immediately is like, Snell said it was fine. Snell?
Yeah.
Snell's a thieving little jerk. Like, you can't trust that kid. And she's like, it's like, clearly this woman is like very much like a pushover, sort of hapless, like trying to do the right thing, but just not in control of her situation at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, then we check in with Snell in his head. This is one of my the passages that I pulled because I just think this is amazing. This sort of insight into his thinking.
Mm-hmm.
He's a real psycho cat kid.
Yeah.
Not a good seed.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's nothing that will ever make me
sympathetic.
Empathize with Snell.
The one thing I know is that Snell is bad.
Beyond reproach.
Bad guy.
Anyway, he's freaking out because now everybody's looking for Harlo, and he's like, I'm going to go double check to make sure his body's still there because they should have discovered his body by now. He goes through the 2-ox gate. Harlo's body not there. Now he's freaking out.
He assumes Harlo is going to come back and like tell everybody what's up. And how immediately to himself he goes, he's going to come back and tell him lies about what happened.
Right.
He's going to lie to everybody.
Yeah.
And how he's like so immediately in self-preservation mode that he's convincing himself of this situation that he caused, it being the falsehood, is like so fascinating and so twisted. And this like back and forth of his monologue being like, I'm just going to double check that the bad thing I did, not that I did it, not that it was bad.
Right.
And then being like,
casting himself as the victim.
And like, here's the glory I will get from all the good things that I've done. It's this interweaving of his brain sort of going everywhere, of the honest things that he needs to do because of the stuff he knows he's done.
Yeah.
And the twisting of it to absolve himself of those things is so wacky.
Oh, it's so insightful too. I mean, it's that old adage that, the villain never thinks of themselves as the villain, right?
Absolutely.
And, being inside that POV is just so, Erikson's so brilliant at that, at putting us inside this even despicable mindset, but doing it in a way that feels authentic and honest. Mm-hmm. Really, really, really beautiful stuff.
Yeah. And even the driver being like, Snell's still like a kid. Like, I don't know how old he is. He's certain, like, I'd say max, like a teenager, right?
Oh, I think he's younger than that. I think he's like 8.
Okay, good. That's what I'm thinking
because isn't Harlo 5?
Yeah, really teeny tiny. And then this idea that everything does seem to be driven by like, I used to have all the attention. Like, it is like such a childish reason for doing such horrible things. It's really, really well done.
Then speaking of horrible people, we shoot over to Gorlas, who is having dinner with his wife ostensibly, but really thinking about how maybe he should just let other people sleep with her.
Really gross guy.
Super gross. And this, again, we're in his POV and we kind of get this sense of what's important, right? It's not even, she's just another prop in his life, in his ladder ascension, his ambition. And, you kind of get it. You get it from his perspective. It's despicable, but in his POV, it's like, no, that's what she's there for. And he even convinces himself like, oh, she'll be into it. She's cool. I know that she's also into money and power, and she likes all the same things I like. She'll understand the benefit of doing something like this. But
also the assumption that it's like, well, she's like this woman, and obviously she like wants kids, which I wasn't going to give her. But if I can just get these two guys to just put kids in her, then she'll shut up and she'll be happy because she'll have kids to have now. Yeah. It's so
icky. Yeah. And then also, he's like leaves in the carriage and driving by the homeless and the lepers and the poor, the underprivileged. And he's like, man, when I'm in charge, we're going to throw these people into a pit.
Yeah.
Just a gem of a human.
Just a great guy. Real adult Snell vibe.
Yeah.
And he has like, he's in his carriage and he has like a little, like a smell pod or something. Cause he doesn't even want to, he's not looking outside. He knows they're there. He just is so disgusted himself that it's just bad dudes.
And then we check in with how Chalice feels about it. And she's like trying to convince herself that it won't be so bad sleeping with these two dudes. They're like, they're not unattractive. I guess.
At least Gorlas has like hot friends.
Yeah.
But like, go ahead.
She's she's trying to convince herself that, she's like, if I take this step, this becomes my life now. Now I'm doing this. We don't get to the resolution of this quite yet, but she's really kind of talking herself into, well, this is my life now. This is what I do. I guess I'm a kind of a prostitute.
Yeah. Well, it's the interesting sort of, obedience bred into her from like obviously her family name and family lineage and being in the courts and what that like marrying into this other family, and like your
Yeah.
job is to continue to bring value. And if your husband is telling you this is the value you bring, is sort of securing his alliances by spreading your legs, then that is the job that you do.
Yeah.
And it's gross, but like you could see like the trail of like how her brain could even be like, okay, let's start wrapping my head around my job. This is the job that I have to do now.
Yeah. Oof. Then we head over to Quip's bar, where Solara and Dueker have a little interaction. She's like, "Hey man, I hear that you're the dude that survived the chain of dogs. I was sort of there-ish. I was in Shaik's camp."
I am really loving Solara. Every interaction we have with her is so good. And this, where Dueker's legit like, I'm trying to brood over here.
Yeah.
Lady, stop being so buoyant in every possible way.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to just be moody. And she's like, oh, interesting if you're like too moody to hear about like my experiences like Hebrick and all the things you're trying to think about. That's fine. I'll just wait. And he's like, okay, now I do want to know that. She's like, great, let's go for a walk. Hee.
Well, it's also, she's like, the reason I want to go over to this other bar is because I want to embarrass somebody. He's like, I can be down with that. I can be down with it. I can help you embarrass a friend. That's funny. Yeah.
It's great. And she just seems like in such good spirits. Like it's so, we'll get to her POV, but like what she sort of, her inner turmoil that she goes through, inner feelings that she has, and still she's been through worse, like in the camp. And so it still feels like she feels just so resilient. And I'm really just loving the voice that she has in these chapters.
Agreed. And I like how everybody's sort of like attracted to her and just like, you know, she can't help but be this draw to everyone. It's fun too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then we head over to that bar, the Phoenix Inn, where Crocus is sitting with Krupp, and he's like, man, I really ticked off Rallick. I shouldn't have done that. And Krupp's like, man, well, you know, you didn't have to become Cutter. You could have been Crocus still, and you could have followed in Murillo's footsteps, but you had to be like Rallick. And he's like, you're in his shadow. He's like, oh, I hate shadows. I say shadows. Shadows are lame. Shadow Throne. Oh, ick.
I like how he's like, if there's anything that has made my life bad, it's Shadow Throne. So everybody shut up about the shadows.
Don't be talking about shadows around me.
It makes me think too much of my girlfriend.
Oh, dude, there's that great line where he
pulled
says,
it.
Oh, you pulled it. Okay, I'll wait then. Yeah. I'll let you say it. It's such a great line, though. Oh my gosh.
You're talking from Krupp, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All this stuff is so good. I think I have a section in here too where he's just talking about people.
A lot of choice Krupp bits in there. Oh,
Krupp,
my man.
I mean, if for my money, Krupp is one of the great literary creations of all time. I put Krupp up there with, you know, what's his name from Confederacy of Dunces, or you know, Catcher in the Rye guy. Like he's just this beautiful thing, and I love him so very much. And the fact that we're getting so much more of him in this novel is such a delight.
So good.
I love it. All right, so we Murillo comes in. And then we pop over to have a quick scene with Mogora and Iskral Pust. Just Iskral just trying to catch a glimpse.
Stealing glances.
Stealing glances. Yes, indeed.
And then like the combined, this is funny because this inner monologue is like, my wife is being so annoying and she's doing all these movements that happen to be mirroring my movements. It's like she doesn't understand that I'm trying to look at a butt. And she's like, I'm saving you because this person will kill you. Yeah. And you are a creep husband.
It's so good. So I just want to look at a butt.
I'm just trying to look at a butt, lady. What's your deal?
Come on. Okay. And then we see what Gorlas is up to over at his new mine. It's a whole city, a mine city with 800 people doing all the things you need. And Gorlas talks to the foreman. He's like, how's things going? He's like, oh, it's great, man. All the little kids that we got working the mines, it just makes it work so good. Because when they keel over, you're not wasting a whole adult person.
Somebody who's trained already.
Yeah. Oh, it's just
we invested early. You're not wasting your investment.
That's right.
So gross.
So gross. But man, plausible that there was a time and not too long ago, and maybe still exists on this earth where people think about that in that way.
Yeah. And this, I mean, immediately, this is the mine that Harlo is in.
Yeah.
That I didn't realize Gorlas was like, I didn't catch that attachment earlier. Like Gorlas has this mine now is the mine that Harlo's in. Yeah. But I'm like, oh, Gorlas in the mine with all the children, and he thinks his wife wants a bunch of kids. I'm like, what are the chances that he's like, you child are now going to come back with me?
Oh, interesting. Wow, that would be a turn. I did not see that. But I did have a bit of a whiplash for the next scene, because the way Harlo, I mean, the scene is haunting and beautiful and sad and poignant, where he's like, I found something I'm good at. I'm good at like something that is absolutely terrifying to me as a reader, this notion of squeezing yourself in the tiniest crevices far under the earth. It's just, it's the most horrifying notion to me.
And it's the space that, because he's the only one who can fit there, he feels safe.
He feels safe, protected by the rock around him, but also he's good at it. And, is it poisoning his lungs? Sure. But, hey, can't make an omelet, right?
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, the whole thing is Harlo is this little beacon of light. His sort of optimism that we saw where he was looking out in the field and being like, over there, you know what it is? Endless possibility. Yeah. It's like, he's just looking up, and even though he's so down, he's just constantly positive. And people are like, I want to punch that kid. It's like so sad.
That's so sad. He just like is a bully magnet.
Yes.
Poor little kid. But the whiplash part for me was this scene feels like somebody who's been there for months. Do you know what I mean? It felt a bit like, we were like, Harlo's been gone for 2 days, and then cut to Harlo, and he's like, this is my life now, which I get on a certain, but I feel like this feels more like a hardened, I've been in it. I've been doing this. I've been, working the mines day after day, and now I found my place. Not the like, yesterday was my first day here.
I think maybe there's something to that of like how time moves as a kid, maybe.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I've spent an afternoon with my nephews and been like, have you tried this thing? And 3 hours later, they're like, I'm actually a professional at that thing,
Yeah, so I get that.
I mean, I hear what you're saying as well.
It just felt like, oh my gosh, did we jump forward in time here? But I don't think we did.
I was like, didn't his like head didn't he have like a concussion? So it's interesting you thought it was legit. I did not think about the time. I don't know if it's been a couple more days even or what it has, but he certainly did have a concussion.
Yeah.
The last time we saw him, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, interestingly, he gets deeper and deeper into this crevice, into this mine, hole.
Literally roping his ankles and dropping him down and being like, can you still breathe?
Yeah. How's the air? And runs into an undead Talana Moss, who's down there.
I love, because even though we know that Talana Moss and him getting to the bottom of this big pit and being like, ooh, there's skelly bones down here. Yeah. I was like, oh, the air's bad. And then it's like, hello, child. And I'm like, oh, of course. So it's like such a funny, I was even caught by surprise that it was a Talana Moss, even as he was describing the bones. And then it felt like a joyful little treat to be like, there's a Talana Moss down here.
I think it's hilarious that this dude clearly fell, broke both of his legs, like compound fractures, both of his legs, bones sticking through the skin. He's like, well, here's where I die. Oh no, I went through that whole Talan ritual and I can't die. I just have to sit here
and wither forever. Away.
It's so hilarious and so tragic.
Yeah.
And Harlow's like, oh, hey man, we have newer tools now. We got iron. Your tools are so old and cool. And the guy's like, I've been here for so long.
Like I was like, I've been here for so long. You gotta get out of here. Do not
Yeah.
send other people down here.
Yeah.
And he's like,
don't
well,
tell him about me. Also, I kind of like it down here now.
Yeah. He's like, well, what if I came back and visited you, mister? And he's like, that I accept.
Dude,
I accept
amazing.
you.
Yeah. Just delightful.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of shares what he learned from Gruntle about the Talana Moss. He kind of knows, a lot about how the Jagged introduced ironwork and some other interesting things.
And interesting, even the Talana Moss being like, he's sort of like almost like an inventor, where he's like, we did things with magic, but I felt like it could have been pulled with heat. I could tell that was like a thing. So this dude's kind of a visionary, which is interesting.
Yeah. He's like, they threw me down here to keep my ideas down here.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Nothing more dangerous.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's like, hey, tell everybody it's poison down here so that no one else comes and finds me. You can come back. So back to Solara and Duiker. They walk to the Phoenix Inn, and Solara is just like pulling this old man out of his shell, just making him talk and
linking
entertaining
him. And
yeah, it's great.
Being a little charmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically is like, hey man, I knew Haboric and Felicin the Younger. And let me tell you everything that happened. She's basically, let me tell you what happened in those other novels real quick.
She says it over the course of like 2 sentences or whatever.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So they arrive at the Phoenix Inn. Duiker's like, Kalam, Absalar, Krupp have all been here. They're just kind of rehashing history.
They also, the way that they arrive, Cutter strangely, I guess maybe he's like reverting. He has like his back to the door, so he doesn't see her enter, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
I would have thought it would be more like the assassin is always watching or whatever, but he's still, he's back in Crocus mode when he's hanging out with Krupp. So he's sort of at the door, and everybody else sees Solara and Duiker walk in, and everybody's sort of is like wide-eyed, like, ugh, what the hell is happening here? And Cutter turns around and he's like, turns around to just her boobs and being like, I know it's Solara. I should look up, but I'm busy.
Yeah.
And then I love that she sits down and she's like, all right, here's my tale. I kind of heard about all of you. Here's like 3 sentences. And I pulled this section later as well, but Krupp is like, that was terribly explained. And he's like, we're going to get some good wine here, but you got to actually tell that story in full and we'll all listen. And she goes, well, that'll take all night. And they're like, exactly. Get the wine.
Let's do this.
They have a little storytelling party with Solara at the center of it.
So good.
And I think that this is Solara. This is one of the scenes where it's one of those things where I'm like, Erikson, I don't think it's like a hard leap to be like, this is how women think sometimes. But her inner monologue of being like, why didn't Cutter want me here? Well, because he's embarrassed about me because I'm overweight.
Yeah.
And that, her like sort of brash honesty about that, being like, well, he obviously doesn't want me here because I'm fat and he's embarrassed that he would associate with me. But she's sort of just matter of fact about it and moves on. And she clearly is sad about feeling that way.
Yeah.
But then everybody else being like, girl, why you got to talk to yourself like that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like it irks everybody in this way, but she just powers forward is such a resonant, specific thing of being like, I accept that this is an embarrassing thing about me. Anyway, you guys want a drink? I cannot, as somebody who's personally felt that way, what feels like my whole life, it was so perfectly done.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I
love how Crocus is like, I don't actually feel that way. Like I don't think that about her, but I also don't have good self-esteem for myself.
He's like, I'm too pathetic. It's not that you're pathetic. It's that I'm pathetic and nobody else is as pathetic as me. I'll never deserve somebody unless they're also pathetic. And the next chapter is like, Chalice is at dinner. And I thought that and she obviously feels like crap about herself and sort of this connection of being like, remember they once Remember when Crocus had eyes for her while she was unconscious? Is like such a funny little connection point through to that next section. But
agreed. Yes, it's the juxtaposition of that and what we know has happened and how far we've come is all great. Yeah, so I love this Chalice scene too. It's so beautifully articulated, this sort of dance that she and this guy have. First of all, she meets with both Hannett and Shardan, and Hannett is a real jerk. He's just like, hey, tell your dad that I'm cool. Tell your dad I'm cool. She's like, I could, but he's not going to listen to me. My dad makes his own decision. I can't help you out. And he's like,
you think I have power? Look where we are.
And he just insults her and leaves. He's like, hussy, drink more wine, hussy, and leaves. Harlot. And Shardan's like, that guy, am I right?
I love
then they have this. Go ahead.
I love that Chalice sits down to like dinner with these guys. Is like, okay, it's gonna be a long night. Buckle up. But then isn't like cowing. Isn't like she doesn't sort of just give in. She's like, oh, I'm gonna say whatever I want. She kind of just talks very plainly in a way that I think you wouldn't expect. And like her strength of character sort of immediately making that guy leave. You're like, okay, well, joke's on him, I guess. Like you were like, well, that was your choice. What are you? What's your deal now? Kind of to the remaining guy, and him being like, "You are so strong and so wonderful, and you don't understand, and Gorlas doesn't understand that I am obsessed with you."
Dude, that seduction or courtship or whatever you want to call it, I don't even know if it's a tactic. I guess it's kind of a tactic, but it feels genuine. Like I think she susses out that it's genuine, where he's just like, I want you to be the best you can be, because I'm so into you that I want you to express your freedom. And if that freedom means you need me to go murder your husband, I'll do that. If it means you want me to stand in the corner, I'll do that. If it means you want to have sex with me, I'll do that. But you decide. It's your freedom that I'm here. And she's like, oh, that's hot as hell. And she's, but like, I just loved the dance of it, because here is this, we have this wonderful situation where she's anticipating it. She kind of doesn't like these guys, but she's kind of trying to talk herself into it. The first guy is an absolute jerkwad who's just like, screw you, I'm out of here. And so we get the feeling that, man, she's just in this horrible situation. And then there's this sort of glimmer of actual desire that she feels, an actual sort of awakening inside her of, oh, I should feel free. I should have someone that treats me like a queen,
And it's so interesting to see the thread of like the first time we saw this character. I forget the guy's name that she's with. It's like Scrant or something.
Scrant.
Whatever his name is. She like identifies him early of being like his eyes are always on her and it feels like really bad. And then here it's sort of a revealing of like, I see you for what your husband doesn't see you for, as like this amazingly powerful woman. He's like, you're strong-minded, you're so smart, you're so beautiful, and he doesn't care about those things, and I care about those things. And the fact that it to me, it's the fact that it doesn't really feel like a dance. It feels like a back and forth that is like intrigue and interest in her sort of realizing what this person is sort of offering her and what this person could be to her. But he is so like, you are amazing. You single-handedly just shut this guy down and shut him out. And like my presence here, like I'm just here for you. He's just so open immediately with her. And the dance part of it is really her just coming around to the idea of that. And the scene ending with her being like, okay, fine, do it. And he's like, all right, time for murder. And she's like, no, not like that.
Oh, dude, that line where she's like,
wrong weapon.
You're grabbing the wrong sword, my friend.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so hot.
But then even like the chivalry of like being like, he like does a bow. It's like, let's get our adultery on, girl. It's so chivalrous. It's like, so it is such a unique feeling scene to read.
I agree. It feels like you could just study that scene. I love the structure of it. I love the language of it. just
It's great.
superlative.
Yeah.
All right. Then we end chapter 9 with another one of these wonderful Krupp summarizing everything that's happening, sort of bird's eye view of the city, of all the little people that we've seen scenes of through this chapter, and sort of checking in on them, which I have grown to totally look forward to. I love the little Krupp. There's a man who sleeps, there's 6 million stories in the big city tonight. And, that kind of, it's just so great.
And doesn't it also end with and then another bully is looking to beat the crap out of Harlo. Next chapter.
Yeah. Meanwhile, this boy's face is super punchable. Yeah. Yeah. So good. All right. Chapter 10 starts with Endist Salon. Out on a hike by the river, it's nice. You got to stay active when you're getting, several thousand years old. Got to stay active.
you gotta search for an ancient river.
That's right.
Of your people.
And maybe you'll never come back. Maybe this is where you die. Or maybe you get your steps in. One or the other.
Get your steps in.
Lo and behold, who does he run into? A shocker for me as a reader. Caladan Brood standing there.
Less broody.
More foodie than broody, right? He's cooking.
Caladan, bringing the mood.
He's just smoking some meats, hanging out by the river as one does.
The weight of the world apparently lifted from his shoulders. He's like, I got no jobs anymore. Want to fish? If it's overdone, it's your fault.
I let the whole army go.
Yeah.
And now I just, I cook here, and don't distract me. Because this is a very, the smoking process is very
He
precise.
seemed like he was there, and he seemed surprised to see Endist, but prepared to see somebody.
Yeah.
Was that because Crone came and was like, somebody's coming? Or what?
Maybe.
I don't know why he was prepared.
I don't either. I don't know why he's here. It was such a shocker out of nowhere to have Caladan Brood show up. I was like, oh, wow. That's cool.
I'm about it. I'm eager to see
Agreed.
what's up.
Agreed. Anyway, the next scene, Samar Dev and Traveler have reached the burning wreckage of the Skathandi caravan, the giant carriage. Yes. The roving palace that Carsa set aflame. They find the burning wreckage, but they do not find bodies.
Yeah.
And Traveler's like, that's weird. It's like he just said, be gone, and they left. Which is basically what happened.
Yeah.
And Traveler's like, that kind of makes me more scared of him, actually.
Yeah. The fact that he came here and didn't kill anybody, but clearly killed whatever was happening here.
Yeah.
Powerful man.
And there's this awesome, I love the conclusion that Samara is drawing about how, Carsa needs an audience, and this whole witness thing that he's always crying about. He doesn't do anything in isolation. He does need people to witness him, and that even the freeing of the slaves, which he thinks is this
noble, altruistic,
string free, like he's cutting their strings. He's actually attaching strings to him. Chains, I guess, is a better metaphor. But he's not freeing them really. He's just reattaching them to someone else.
Yeah, because they were just going to praise him now, and he will be the thing that is their burden in a way.
Which we
really
saw
like that
explicitly, right? He's like, go live, but I'm coming to kill you, right?
Yeah.
You'll never be without me hovering behind your shoulder at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Which is it's just so insightful. I loved it.
Yeah. And I also just love that Traveler's like, are you excited to see your crush? And she's like, shut up. I don't have a crush on him. Shut up. It's just his horse.
I just rode for days to find him on his horse.
I don't owe him anything. This horse needed to get there. The horse did.
So then they encounter some refugees, these two pregnant women and 3 men. And Samar's like, well, it's nice that they're not dead, and the men are being respectful. And Traveler's like, I'm gonna go talk to him. I'll find out what the haps is. And he finds out that, hey, Carsa is not wielding the mottled sword from the crippled god from the Emperor of Letheris. He's actually wielding a flint sword, so he didn't take the sword.
Suddenly Traveler's like, whew.
Yeah.
Everything's fine then. I'm still gonna go. I gotta see who the heck this guy is.
We still might fight. I'll be honest. I'm not ruling out a fight.
Yeah.
But he also finds out that he didn't take anything from them, which is, he's like, wow. And Samar's like, yeah, that's kind of him. He doesn't take stuff.
That's his whole thing.
Yeah. So they keep on their trail, and there he is up in the distance. It's Carsa, and he's like, guys, you found me.
I love that, like, they ride up. Samar's there. She's on Havoc and trotting up, and like there's like she's like there he is, and there's all these feelings, and she's like clearly, as they've been on the road, been like kind of processing, being like, I'm in denial of liking this guy.
Yeah.
And then as she rides up, even before she gets there, she's like, I didn't do this because I had to. I did it because the horse and for no other reason. And it's like yelling at him as they run up. And he's just kind of like chilling there, and then scoops her up in like this big hug. And then she's like, put me down, you jerk. Like their relationship is so funny. And then he's like, okay. Yeah. And like drops her. So it like jars her knees and she falls down. Like such a jerk, and like, just like a funny, like weird, flirty sort of thing to do.
It's great. It's great how she's got all these layers of psychological processing, and like, well, I can't show him this, and I can't say that, and if when I see him, it's going to be weird. And he's just like, hey, he is as there's no artifice for Carsa Orlong. He is just as. Whatever he's feeling is what he's saying. He's like, you're awesome. And she's like, no, get away from me. He's like, fine. All right. And he's like already not looking at her. He's like, who's this dude?
Well, I love that he's like, okay, I get it. You must be her husband. That's why she's denying me. And he's just kind of like, time to kill you because I want that lady.
Guess we're fighting over her now. That's why you came here is because, and I love how he's like, oh, makes sense that she didn't sleep with me now. I get it. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I'll kill you.
Yeah. At least that now I square that circle. At least it makes sense that,
because there's no other reason why.
Yeah. It's impossible that she would have denied me. Married. Okay. Yeah. Like, okay, cool. Got it.
I loved it. Loved it.
Such a great scene. And, the little back and forth between Traveler and Carsa, where Traveler's like, no, I'm not. No, I don't, dude. I'm not into her. We're just friends.
We just met.
We just happen to be walking the same direction. That's all. And Carsa's like, you're going to Darujhistan, huh? I've heard about Darujhistan. Interesting. They resisted the Malazans. I'll go there before I go rally my people and turn them into a civilization destroying band.
Civilization.
Yeah, civilization. Yeah, right. Yeah. So Carsa going to Darujhistan. I can't wait to see how that plays out.
Really eager.
So then we have Selind, the priestess.
High priestess. She keeps being called High Priestess now.
Yes, the Tistandi High Priestess. She's having kind of a trippy moment where she's seeing this image of pregnant ladies.
And with that sort of look like they've ingested Kellic as well. So same sort of imagery of like the dark eyes and the dark mouths.
Yeah. Yep. Wakes up to Spinnock, who's trying to help her. She's having these horrible thoughts, suicidal thoughts, and worried about the Redeemer. And she's like, I know what I have to do. I have to go back to the Pilgrim camp. The Redeemer is going to be there. He's like, I got bad news. The Redeemer's not there. No one's seen him. The Seer Dome, and I'm worried about him. And she's like, okay, just stop. He'll be there when he's needed. She's sort of in denial, it seemed to me, at least.
To me, it's like she has like some odd sense of something You know,
Yeah.
there's people can feel like it feels like pulses of the world in a way.
Mm.
And there are people who are knowing. Like, why is Caladan Brood waiting there? He's like knowing in some way. So to me, denial actually might be more apt, but to me it read as like a sense and a knowing that it would work out, that comes with sort of any god, there's gods in the world kind of tale.
Well, then we check in on the Redeemer himself. Well, not really the Redeemer, but the Seer Domin, who is visiting an old place we know so well. The spot where Tok the Younger was squeezed and broken his bones by the Kachin Shamali matron.
It's a tower, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
a big
palace,
structure,
like
and
the
he
Coral
was
Palace.
yeah. And
Anyway, he's found these conspirators who were back to their old ways of being awful, and dispatches them brutally. Takes no time and just chopping them up. Keeps one guy alive and it's like, hey, buddy, tell me everything and I'll kill you quick. The dude gives him list of names. Seer Domin is on this quest to kill all of these former Panian Domin troops that are now kind of reconstituting some sort of conspiracy cult, right?
I really love that scene where he keeps that one guy alive and the guy's like, save me, spare me, and I'll tell you everything. And he goes, no, you don't understand. Your life is already gone. Yeah. That's not the gambling chip that we're working with here. It's
he says
how
something
quickly
like,
do I end
your
it?
life is not the coin of this transaction or something like that. So good.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Awesome. But then there's a real out of nowhere thing. We have this tiny little moment where a new character called Monk Rat is watching. Monk Rat is the monk of rats.
Is Monk Rat new? Monk Rat wasn't part of the Rat Catchers Guild?
Oh, interesting. I did not get that. But isn't that in Letheris?
Oh, that is in Letheris. I don't know. You're right.
No, I think, there's been a lot of rats. I mean, even
in
Bottle,
the desert.
in his rat. I feel like this Monk Rat has a similar power to Bottle. But I feel like Monk Rat is a new character who is now wants to put a stop to what Seer Domin is doing for some reason. All right, back to Namander, Kalor, Aranatha, and all the other gang. They've arrived at Bastion, the abandoned city. It's not in a good place. Not in a good place.
The whole city has become a consecrated ground of they're like, oh, we should find the church, and they're like, oh no, it's not a church, it's this whole area.
You're in the church. The whole city's a church.
Ooh, freaky.
And the Kalor's like, I tried to make an entire continent a church once. And they're like, oh, worshiping who? He's like, me.
Duh. Anyway,
and he's like, oh, did it fail? He's like, yeah, everything fails eventually. It's loved. Just the guy who's lived forever is over everything. It's just like, I've seen it all, man. But then they have this really interesting moment where they discover this piece of tech, this crazy machine that is Kachin Shamali sourced. This kind of steampunky gear tech thing.
Yeah.
But you don't know exactly what it is. But then we are full on in, this whole Namander subplot has been a full on zombie movie.
Yeah.
They're finding they go into this bar where all the counters are stuffed with dead bodies. There's
like a well that is filled with dead bodies. And they're like, I'm pretty sure that there was no water in it. They just like, when people died, as they died, they just were like, oh, well, into the hole.
The rim of the well has maggots on it. It's so gross. It's like, hope nobody drank out of that one.
Yeah.
But then the shambling hordes start assembling around them. I just feels so much like a zombie movie. It's just like,
yeah.
They got the black around their mouths from the Kellic. So gross. And like, okay, well, how are we going to do this? And this is exactly what I was talking about at the beginning of the show about one of the things that make me pop like a mark is the competency porn, super competent, hyper competent is when Kalor is like, all right, here we go. Sword time. It just strides up, stretching. And they're like, oh, he don't look so old anymore.
Yeah.
when he pulls his sword out. I was like, hell yeah. And he just wades into them and kind of cuts this path through them for himself.
Ugh. And then all of them are
Sick.
like, he's fine. He can come through here. Because there is like an altar area that they're able to identify as like the space.
Yeah.
Taller sort of gets through, and then Nimander and Skintick, I forget who's with him. Nananda? Go, all right, so they just don't want us near it.
Yeah.
And we'll have to strategize and come back about what can we do so we don't have to kill all of the people. But we will kill all the people if we have to.
He's like, they're like, we're like the shadow to children of the dark. We could just be stealthy, maybe. How about that? How about we try that approach?
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice in these last couple of scenes here with this group? Maybe I've been missing it up until now, but I feel like in these scenes, Skintick emerged as this like wisecracking sidekick character.
He's always been that to me.
Oh, okay. I just been not picking up on that vibe.
He got the jabs. He got the little.
I felt like here he was really making me laugh. Like some of his little asides and like, oh, I guess we're not walking in the air, everybody. Like that. And Nimander's like, hey man, focus.
Yeah.
It was really funny. I really enjoyed him. I was like, wasn't really picking up on that earlier. I mean, I'm sure it's just me missing it. Mm-hmm. But now I'm like, oh, I get who Skintick is.
He's the guy.
He's the guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they come out somehow, and Clip's fever's getting worse, and they've got this delivery of food, which feels very mysterious at this point, where they keep getting like food and supplies that are all just like who's
dropped
delivering it,
or
why is it here? It feels like they're being sort of drawn further into this, and I don't know what that's about.
Me neither.
Yeah, interesting stuff. And then we have a little moment with Crone flying over Solana and looking out over the city. It's kind of it takes the place of that Krupp moment. There's some sort of foreshadowing and overtones there. I don't know if there's anything you want to pull out of that, but
no, there's nothing that really.
She says something is happening to the south.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. So that's the end of chapter 10. I thought these awesome chapters. I particularly love chapter 9. I feel like it's alternating chapters between sort of like the Darujhistan, real like people on the boots on the ground. And then we'll do a chapter of like the sort of, higher elevated non-human, the Nimanders, the Endists, the Rakes, like it feels like we bounce back and forth between those two groups. And I prefer the first of the two, but I really am enjoying both.
Yeah. I like it all. It feels like there's like a delicious amount of variety.
Agreed. All right. So we have I have a number of really great.
I also have a number of them.
Would you like to go first?
Sure. My first bit is literally the first paragraph of chapter 9. It just was very, very lovely. Who are we with in this? I think this is just like the narrator, sort of cruppy narrator thing.
Yeah.
Oh, looking out over the Nubman, whatever his name is, the guy with the nub hands.
Oh yeah.
Expectation is the hoary curse of humanity. One can listen to words and see them as the unfolding of a petal, or indeed the very opposite, each word bent and pushed tighter, smaller, until the very packet of meaning vanishes with a flip of deft fingers. Poets and tellers of tales can be tugged by either current, into the riotous conflagration of beauteous language or the pithy reduction of the tersely colorless.
Beautiful. Beautiful. My first passage is the Snell section. I read this out loud to my wife because it articulates basically our worst fears about our children. This is like the thing that I'm always terrified my kid is going to be. And when he doesn't tell me the truth or does something underhand, this is like, oh my God, this is what I think my kid is. And it's so perfectly articulate. I literally read this out loud to my wife and she was like, oof. Snell understood in a dim but accurate way how others, wishing only the best in him, could have their faith abused at will. And even should some truth be dragged into the light, well, it was then a matter of displaying crushed self-pity, and the great defender would take him into her arms as mothers do. Can we hope that on rare occasions, perhaps late at night, when the terrors crept close, he would think about how things he'd done could damage his mother's faith? And not just in him, but in herself as well? The son, after all, is but an extension of the mother. At least, so the mother believed. There in some inarticulate part of her soul, unseen yet solid as iron chain. Assail the child, and so too the mother is assailed. For what is challenged is her life as a mother, the lessons she taught or didn't teach, the things she chose not to see, to explain away, to pretend were otherwise than what they were. Weep for the mother. Snell won't, and he never would, saving all his future to weep exclusively for himself. The creeping terrors awakened startling glimmers of thought, of near empathy, but they never went so far as to lead to any self-recognition or compassion for the mother who loved him unconditionally. His nature was the kind that took whatever was given to him as if it were a birthright, all of it, forever and evermore.
Ugh. Brutal.
It's the worst fear of what your child will be, right? It's just the utter nightmare.
It's just
and so beautifully articulated.
Just like the one part of it. It's like, so cry for the mother. Snell won't.
Right.
Ugh. Saving his future to only care about
cry
himself.
for himself.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Ugh. Yeah.
This is the part that I mentioned that I pulled with Cutter and Krupp.
Yeah.
Where Cutter's like, Rallick is so pissed at me. Krupp commiserates. Tragedy of destiny, when destiny is that which one chooses, given what one is given. Dear Cutter might have retained original name had he elected a life in, say, Murillo's shadow. Alas, Cutter a name is Cutter indeed. Cutter swallowed and said, Hold on, I wasn't making a point of walking in Rallick's shadow. Not anybody's shadow. In fact, the whole idea of shadow makes me sick. If one god out there has truly cursed me, it's Shadow Throne. Shifty Shadow Throne, he of the sourceless shade, a most conniving, dastardly god indeed. Chill is his shadow, cruel and uncomfortable in his throne, horrid his hounds, tangled his rope, sweet and seductive his innocent servants. But, and Krupp held aloft one plump finger, Cutter would not speak of walking in shadows. Why? Not anyone's, even one which sways most swayingly, that cleaves most cleavingly, that flutters in fluttering eyelashes, framing depthless dark eyes that are not eyes at all, but pools of unfathomable depth. And is she sorry? By Absalar, she is not.
So good. It's
so good.
He's just like, I got you nailed, kid.
Yeah.
And that whole, is she sorry? By Absalar, she is not. I literally stopped right there and just had to like tip my hat to Erikson. And I even thought, I was like, did he name Absalar after a patron saint just to set up this joke like 4 books later? Like, it's so perfect. It's so perfect. I love it.
Loved it.
I also have a Krupp Cutter moment. This is my favorite Krupp sequence here. Why is it, Krupp wonders, that those who claim all healthy amends via rank brews, gritty gray repasts of the raw and unrefined, and unpalatable potions, and this amidst a regime of activities invented solely to erode bone and wear out muscle, all these purveyors of the pure and good life are revealed, one and all, as wan, parched, well nigh bloodless, with vast fists bobbing up and down in the throat and watery eyes savage in righteous smugitude, walking like energized storks and urinating water pure enough to drink all over again. And pass, if you please, to dear beatific Krupp then, that last pastry, squatting forlorn and alone on yon pewter plate.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I have also one more Krupp quote.
I love it.
Krupp, that's my boy.
Yeah.
This is Solara after she like rattled through like her history. Krupp wheezed upright and began waving his hands. Krupp hastens with proper welcome to this grand company, to already beloved Solara of the knowing eyes, and other assorted accoutrements of charm Krupp would dearly wish to knowingly eye, if not for the dastardly demands of decorum. Welcome, cries Krupp, even as he slumps back, exhausted by his enthusiasm and dimpled with desire.
Dimpled with desire.
Such a beautiful greeting. Oh, I would ogle you all day, girl, but I am full.
Dude, I mean, he's so great.
I feel like I have another Krupp quote even. Sorry, go ahead.
I stopped mine early, but man, he goes on about pastries and how like, you got to live, man. You got to live.
Yeah.
Eat. What am I going to do? Not eat a pastry? I'm not going to live like that.
I know.
And he says, oh, wait, I kind of want to read it. So he goes, pastry, dear lad, sweet pleasures to confound the pious worshippers of suffering. How many lives do each of us have, Krupp wonders rhetorically, to so constrain this one with desultory discipline so efficacious that Hood himself must bend over, convulsed in laughter? This evening, dear friend of Krupp, you and I will walk the cemetery and wager which buried bones belong to the healthy ones and which to the wild, cavorting, headlong maniacs who danced bright with smiles each and every day. Well, the healthy bones would be the ones left by old people, I'd wager. No doubt, friend Cutter, a most stolid truth. Why, Krupp daily encounters ancient folks and delights in their wide smiles and cheery well-mets. Well, they're not all miserable, Krupp. True, here and there totters a wide-eyed one, wide-eyed because a life of raucous abandon is behind one, and the fool went and survived it all. Now what, this creature wonders? Why am I not dead? And you, with your 3 paltry decades of pristine boredom, why don't you just go somewhere and die? Are you being hounded by the aged, Krupp? Worse! Dear Murillo moans crabby and toothless and now ponders a life of inactivity. Promise Krupp this, dear Cutter. When you see this beaming paragon here before you falter, dribble at the mouth, mutter at the clouds, wheeze and fart and trickle with all the rest, do bundle Krupp up tight in some thick, impervious sack of burlap, find a nearby cliff, and send him sailing out.
Excellent. Ugh.
I just love it so very much. I love it.
And even just being like, look at the bones in the graveyard. I can't tell that you spent your life counting calories and being fit as hell. Who gives a crap?
Yeah. Yeah. He's like maybe the ones who live longer. He's like, oh yeah. Super great life, living long, bored.
Every old person that we've ever met seems to be really having a great time.
Just the best life. They're just so happy they lived this long. Oh, it's the greatest.
I had one more Krupp thing that I'm going to skip because we're getting tight on time.
Okay.
But there's one that I wanted to read because it was impactful and it just felt, but it's less happy. So maybe I should read the Krupp one.
No, do it.
But this one is Seerdomen. And pardon my language, it is a quote. If there was a curse, a most vicious kind of curse, whereby a decent person found him or herself in escapable servitude to a creature of pure, unmitigated evil, then Seerdomen had lived it. Decency did not exculpate. Honor purchased no abeyance on crimes against humanity. And as for duty, well, it increasingly seemed the sole excuse of the morally despicable. He would offer up none of these in defense of the things he had done at his master's behest. Nor would he speak of duress, of the understandable desire to stay alive under the threat of deadly coercion. None of these was sufficient. When undeniable crimes had been committed, justification was the act of a coward. And it was our cowardice that permitted such crimes in the first place. No tyrant could thrive where every subject said no. The tyrant thrives when the first fucking fool salutes.
I posted that on Blue Sky. That was the last 2 sentences yesterday because it hit me so hard. Because it's happening now.
Yeah.
It's happening now.
Yeah.
His like I think one page later where he says the notion of freedom could make even peace and order seem oppressive, generate the suspicion of some hidden purpose, some vast deceit, some unspecified crime being perpetrated beyond human ken. This idea that like we can't handle actually having freedom. We got to like invent ways to
make it worse.
To subjugate ourselves really to a tyrant. Which is happening right now.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating to watch. Anyway, it is wonderful to read. And we are delighted to be reading it with you. Thanks, folks. Thanks for sending in your non-spoiler topics. Keep them coming. dlcfeedback@gmail.com. We got 2 more chapters next week. We'll be back. Thanks for reading with us. Keep dancing.
When the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality, open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends, so join the book club.